Europe, a continent shaped by centuries of conflict and shifting borders, fields and forests soaked in the memories of war. French, German, English, Spanish, Dutch, Prussian, Austrian. Borders weren't just lines, they were walls, reasons for suspicion and fear. Generations grew up with stories of betrayal and old wounds, always wary of the neighbor across the river. To be European was to know that peace was only a pause before the next storm. Families and communities were torn apart as empires rose and fell, redrawing maps at will. The idea of a united Europe seemed impossible, a fantasy in a world built on mistrust. This legacy of division was Europe's inheritance, passed down through the ages. Suspicion was the bedrock, and the continent was haunted by the ghosts of its own history. But that foundation was about to be shattered by a catastrophe unlike any before. The 20th century brought devastation on a scale never seen. World War I left Europe bleeding, its youth, wealth and spirit lost in the trenches. The old empires collapsed, but peace was fragile, built on resentment. The Treaty of Versailles sowed seeds for another, even darker conflict. World War II followed, cities reduced to rubble, and the Holocaust revealed humanity's darkest depths. By 1945, Europe was a graveyard, physically and morally shattered. Out of this ruin, a radical idea emerged. What if the cycle of war could finally end? Survivors saw the cost of division was too high. Something fundamental had to change, not just treaties, but how Europeans saw each other. The old ways had led only to destruction. The survivors knew this could never happen again. A new vision was needed. The seeds of unity were planted in the ashes. In the silence after war, visionaries like Jean Monnet saw a new path. The answer: cooperation over the very resources that fueled conflict: coal and steel. Monnet's plan: France and Germany, historic enemies, would pool these industries under a shared authority. The Schuman Declaration of 1950 proposed making war not just unthinkable but materially impossible. It was a bold invitation. Bind old enemies in shared prosperity, not destruction. This wasn't about erasing identity but creating shared sovereignty in key areas. The wounds of war were fresh, but the logic was undeniable. By controlling the engines of war together, Europe could prevent future conflict. It was a leap of faith, a handshake across the Rhine that changed history, the first step toward a united Europe. The Schuman Plan worked. In 1951, 6 nations formed the European Coal and Steel Community, giving up some sovereignty for peace. Success inspired bigger dreams. In 1957, the Treaties of Rome created the European Economic Community, the goal: a single market where goods, services, capital and people moved freely. Economic bridges replaced old barriers. More countries joined: Britain, Ireland, Denmark, Greece, Spain, Portugal, drawn by peace and prosperity. The vision of unity grew stronger with each new member. In 1992, the Maastricht Treaty created the European Union, deepening cooperation beyond economics. The euro followed, a shared currency symbolizing a new European identity. The founders' dream was becoming reality. Old walls fell, a new community rose. Europe was being rebuilt, together. The journey hasn't been easy. Crises, financial, migration, Brexit have tested the EU's resolve and unity. Nationalism and doubt have challenged the project's very purpose. Yet for over 70 years the EU has delivered peace, its greatest achievement. Former enemies now resolve disputes through dialogue, not war. The EU is imperfect, sometimes messy, but it stands as a symbol of hope and reconciliation. It proves that even bitter rivals can build a common future. Europe's story is no longer just one of division, but of unity and peace. The journey continues, the challenges are real, but the path forged from the ruins of war remains a beacon. The future of Europe is still being written.